Hi everyone, thank you for joining our webinar on creating a case in Quantum Cloud. My name is Pippa and I will be here behind the scenes just making sure that everything runs smoothly. And if anyone's got any quick questions during the webinar, if you just pop it in the Q&A box below, I'll be able to answer those. But if you've got a question for Lisa, we can also go through those at the end in the live Q&A. So hosting your webinar today will be the lovely Lisa. Lisa is the head of customer service here at Quantum Cloud. And without any further ado, I'll pass it over to Lisa to get started with the webinar.
Thank you, Pippa, for that lovely introduction. Hi, everybody, and welcome. So I'll waste no time and we'll get started. So Quantum Cloud is our all-in-one legal forms software built to streamline complex form drafting and also automate some key calculations. And there's a lot of security built around that for collaboration with clients and counsel. It is hosted on AWS servers. They're located in London, and the data is all encrypted. So we can't actually see any of that data. All of the data is visible just by the organisation. So what I'll do is I will share my screen with you all and we will make a start. Okay, so I thought I'd demonstrate the login process for you today for those that may not have logged into the software yet. So when you're invited to Quantum, you'll receive an email which will look like this. It will have a link to the Quantum website, but also a temporary password that hopefully you can see there that I've highlighted. So you would click on the link, which will take you to Quantum, copy that temporary password, and then open the link here, pop in your email address. We're going to use that temporary password and sign in. And then at this point, Quantum will ask us to create our own password and re-enter it just for confirmation. We then select change password. And once that's done, now it's time for us to set up two-factor authentication. So we have enabled that as part of the sign-in process, just for that extra layer of security because of the sensitive data that's being entered into the system. So you would use an authenticator app on your mobile device. There are lots of free apps available. We recommend Microsoft Authenticator, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. Here we go. So it's the icon with the blue padlock. Now, do be wary because some apps do try and charge you. You should never pay for an authenticator. They should always be free. So which is why we recommend the Microsoft Authenticator, because that is free of charge. You would install that on your mobile phone, and once you've set up an account on there, you've got the option then to create your 2FA and scan a QR code. You'll just hold your phone up to the QR code like I'm doing now, save that, and then it will generate us a 6-digit password that we can pop in without a space to verify that security token. And that's us all logged in. If you do need help with that, you can give us a call. We're always happy to support you in any way that we can. So when you log in, you'll be prompted to set the default fee earner and address details. So this is simply to save you more time. So when you create a case, it will automatically ask for solicitor's details and your address. So you're not having to re-enter that same information multiple times. So we do have some information stored here, and it's likely that you will already have this data stored at the firm. So we can see we've got our firm name and the address. So we need to set that as default. So to do that, we would highlight the record, click set default, and that will just pop a tick under the default option. Just make sure that you see that tick before you move on. And it's exactly the same for the fee earner details. Again, highlight the record, set default, and then you can move through to the next screen. Now, if the address for any reason, or it's a different address that you need to add, or another fee earner, we do have these add buttons. So you can just click add, and then you can add the information manually yourself. Once you've added it, you'll again have to highlight it and set it as default before you can move through to the next screen. So we've done that. We'll click OK. And now we can see our case dashboard. So from the case dashboard, so this is a list of all of the current cases that we have active at the firm at the moment. We can see an audit trail at the top of the case name, when it was created, when it was last edited, who it's assigned to. So you do have to assign a case to yourself if you want to make edits. We've done that to avoid any editing conflicts with the program being stored in the cloud. If multiple people were working on the same case at the same time, that could cause issues. So you must assign the case to yourself. I'll show you how to do that. So if we highlight one of the cases that we wish to access and click open, you'll see a message pop up at the top, which will say that the case is currently assigned to my colleague, and I can assign it to myself by clicking this underlined text here. So if I do that, I can then, it'll just, ask me to make sure that I've checked with my colleague that they're no longer working on it, which is really good practice to do, just in case you take the case from them and assign it to yourself. This is really useful actually if something urgently needs updating and my colleague isn't available to do it right at this minute. I can assign the case to myself, and then that will pop it into my caseload. So back to the case dashboard. The final tab is collaborating. So collaborate is the feature that allows you to share some of the forms with clients or counsel. We are going to look at Collaborate a little bit later on in the webinar. We'll touch briefly on that and setting up a collaborator. But yeah, if there's a tick next to that, that means that you are actively collaborating with this particular client on a case. You've shared a form with them. There is also a search feature just here next to the case name. So if you wanted to search for a particular case name, you can. And the buttons at the bottom, we'll work through those next. So to create a new case, simply click on the new case button, give the case a name, and type. And then it will ask you for your privacy options. Now, by default, every case within Quantum is unrestricted, and that means that anybody with a login for that particular firm could view or edit that case. Now, if it is a particularly sensitive matter, you also have the option to mark the case as private. So you would tick the box there, and then underneath, it will ask you if you wish to share that particular case with a colleague. We do recommend that, sharing with at least one or two colleagues, because if you only have a private case set for yourself and you're not available and something needs urgently updating, for GDPR purposes, we can't actually allow somebody access to a private case. So yeah, please do make sure that you share it with another colleague. So I'm going to go back to unrestricted, create my case, and that will open the case for me to start working on. But there are a few things that I still want to show you within the case dashboard before we move on to this particular case here. So copying a case, that's really useful if you've completed the case information and any of the forms, but actually you maybe need another version of the Form E, for example. You may have created a voluntary for me initially, and actually now things are proceeding to the court and you need to create another Form E. So rather than you then having to start from the beginning and all of the empty fields, you can copy and then just change the data. So to copy a case, you would just highlight the case, click copy, and it will automatically name it the case name dash copy, but you can then just rename it to whatever you like. And we're going to copy that, and then that will pop it again into our case dashboard to work on. When creating private cases, some firms like to anonymize the names. As you can see here, we've created a private case there. It puts this mask icon next to the left-hand side, but the name is still visible. So you could use something in the case name like a matter number just to anonymize the case, or something else. Just be mindful that the case name will still be visible if you add it in this field here. Okay, the third button along is the case settings. That just allows you to change the name of the case and the privacy options. So let's now change this to a private case, and I'll share it with a couple of my colleagues here and click save. So they will also have access to this particular case marked as private. And then finally, archiving a case. So we do have a filing sort of structure within Quantum, just to make the list of current cases more manageable for you as a firm, because obviously this will grow over time. So it's really good practice that if if everything is done, all of the forms that you've needed to create are all downloaded, and you're not going to need to access it again in the future or in the near future, you can archive it. So if you highlight it and click archive, it just pops it then to the left here in the archive cases. So it is just a filing system for this purpose. We'll archive that. That's moved to our archive list, and we can see it here. Now, there is a delete case option. Now, that is only ever available to your nominated admin user. That's not, it's only one person within the firm that can delete cases. So if you don't have a nominated admin user, do get in touch and we can set that up for you. That person just has access to delete case files. They sit within pending deletion for 60 days. So if I delete this case, any versions older than 60 days will be permanently deleted. So it does give you that time to restore the case if you need to. So yeah, they will sit there for 60 days before they're permanently removed from AWS servers. Okay, so that's all of the details for the case dashboard. So now we'll have a look at a case and enter some information in to show you what that looks like. So we'll stick with this case that we've got here for Mark Smith. We're going to open that. So the purpose of Quantum is to save you time, essentially. So what we want to do is start with this case information that lives across this lilac coloured bar across the top. When you've entered that information just once, it will feed into any of the forms down the left-hand side. That's really saving you from any repetitive data entry. You're not having to, repeatedly enter names, details of any children, your own details. It will automatically fill that in for you. So we would start with our client and work our way, type again, through the fields. And I don't know if you've seen, but if you keep your eye on the bottom right-hand corner, Quantum auto saves. So there's no need for you to click a save button. It will automatically store all of the information in the cloud for you. Now, these icons here, where it mentions linked fields, that's any data that links to the forms. So it's quite a nice visual for you to see what information writes back. You'll see identical fields within the forms as well, and that will tell you where that information has pulled in from the case info. So that's really useful. So work your way through this tab. Saving all of that data, we'll now look at our details. So as we can see, the information that we'd entered at the very start, so those fee earner details and the address have automatically pulled in. So this is where I'd said that, you're not having to re-enter that information for each case. Other party solicitor, you would have to enter that information manually. Key dates, so you can enter here key dates for the case, and again they'll pull into the forms, and also we'll ensure that all of the right boxes for the cover sheet are completed when it's asking for these key dates as well. Details of any children. Just enter some basic case details here. The relationship to the client, to the other party, who they live with. So that's our children's information entered. These also do link to any of the forms, particularly child benefit. So if you're entering some of the benefit assets into the Form E, it will automatically pull in the rate for you as well. It will check their date of birth and do that calculation for you automatically. Exchange rates. So it is possible to add currencies within the system, particularly if there are assets overseas, bank accounts, properties. You can add another currency and then it will actually convert that using the rate for today and convert it into pounds. So let's add a currency here. I'm going to select from the drop down and we'll select the euro, and here's where it pulls the rate in and today's date. So we've got an automatic link and API to openexchangerates.org, and that's where clicking this refresh symbol will pull that information through. Now, you don't have to use this particular information. You can pop a date in for the future, or you can, if you've agreed a rate with the other side, you can enter the rate in here. So they are flexible manual fields that you can edit yourself. And once you've entered them into the case information, you can then pick them up in any of the forms where it's asking for a money value and do the conversion. And then finally, we've got our proceedings. So we've got those split into three. We've got divorce and finance, children's proceedings and family law act. Each will ask for the client's role in the application. So if it's a sole application or a legacy from the joint applications there, if it's divorce and what type of proceedings it is, the client's role, and it's the same for the financial proceedings as well on the other side. They'll ask you for a case number. And then underneath, we've got all of the divorce centres and courts listed in the programme. So you can just select from the list. You can either use the drop down to look for divorce centres and courts, or there is actually a search feature there as well. Select the court that you want, and that will automatically pull in the information that's registered for that particular court. Now, if there is anything that you need to add or that needs amending, we've got these edit/enter buttons, and that just frees up the text box and allows you to then add to it or delete as necessary. And the Children's Proceedings and Family Law Act work in exactly the same way. Okay. So now we've looked at the case information, this might be a really good opportunity for us to look at Quantum Collaborate and actually sending an invitation to the client for them to complete a form. So Quantum Collaborate lives in the Tools section in the top right-hand corner. We would click on Tools and then down to Quantum Collaborate. And here is where we would start to enter the client's information. Enter their name and email address. And we have some options. So it is possible to collaborate with a client, but also a barrister. Other could be a financial advisor. So you would select the option that fits for whoever you're collaborating with. They will see different wording. So the client's version is more client friendly. And they have access to less of the sections. There are some sections that are not editable for clients, particularly, the solicitor's information. And some of the orders sections, but yeah, most of the sections are available for them. And barrister, they will have access to more. And this will automatically send the client any documents that you've shared. So it is possible to upload supporting PDF documents to a form, particularly for things like bank statements, mortgage valuations, and you can actually attach them to the Form E and they appear at the very end of the form. So they can share documents with you and they must be in a PDF format. So once we've set the client up, we'll click Create Collaborator, and this will automatically send the client an email inviting them to join Quantum. They'll log in exactly the same way, using an email address, password, and two-factor authentication. We are very happy to support clients if they need any help with logging in or using the program. They can give us a call, or we're happy to give them a ring as well, or email. Do let them know that we are available to support them too. So what's that's done is it's automatically sent the client the case information. We haven't actually shared any of the forms to them yet. To share a form, we would click Select Forms, And these are the options that are available. We've got some children's forms, divorce, some financial remedy forms, and you would just tick the forms that you wish to share with them. There are some of the tools as well, the ES2 schedule, a chronology, and our schedule of assets. You can pick multiple, so if you need to pick more than one, then just tick the boxes, click Save Form Selection, and that will again send another email to the client, letting them know that there is a form there ready for them to collaborate on. Take a look at the top right-hand corner where the remaining capacity is. So every firm has a set number of collaborate keys that are available to them based on the number of users that they have. So I can see here that my remaining capacity to collaborate is 2. That just tells me that I can collaborate for 2 more cases, and then I really need to start thinking about which client might be finished with collaborating, to free those keys up. To remove a collaborator, you would just click this button here, but just do make sure that they've completed everything that they need to and have sent it back to you. Okay, so that's everything from me. I'll hand back over to Pippa for any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. That was absolutely brilliant. We have had quite a lot of questions come through, so I'll try my best to get through them all. One of the first questions we've had is, can myself and my colleague work on the same case at the same time?
No, so only one person can work on a case, and that's to avoid editing conflicts. So if you need to print off a form or document from a case, you can, but if you want to make changes, as we saw earlier in the case dashboard, if you want to work on it, you must assign the case to yourself to make any changes.
Great, thank you. Another question we've had come through is, can I change the default fee earner details?
Yeah, absolutely. So it does ask you on that first login, but if you do need to amend the fee earner details in any way, if you navigate to your name in the top right-hand corner, click on the drop down and you can see fee earner details there. And this is where you can make changes. You could add another fee earner, or you could modify one of the records that sits within there already.
Great, thank you. We have had another question asking, how do the currencies show on a completed form?
Okay, yeah, so let's have a look at a form E. So I know that we've added a currency for this particular case. So we'll go to the bank account section and let's add a bank account here. So if we scroll down, wherever there's a money value, you'll see a drop down next to the left-hand side. This is where we can pick up that currency that we'd added in the case information earlier. And you can see there that it's actually converted the value in pounds for us. To see what that looks like on the form, if you click this print or download button in the top right corner, this will always give you a view of the final form. So it's really handy for checking your formatting and make sure that you're happy with everything and the way that it looks before you download it. But this is what the currencies will look like. So it doesn't actually put the date in. You can add that manually yourself. We've got lots of additional information text boxes that allow you to do that. So if I just modify this account here, you could put a date in there and then that will show up on the form. I put a date. And then print or download again. You can see there the text is just underneath. And all of the text boxes within Quantum are expandable, so you're not limited to how much text that you can enter either.
That was great. Thank you, Lisa. So we've had another question come through as well, asking, do I need to use my 2FA every time I log in?
Yeah, however, you won't need to scan the QR code every time as we did when we initially logged into Quantum. Once you have that 6-digit code generated on your app, you would just need to enter that into Quantum each time that you log in without a space.
Lovely. We've had another question come through asking, can I create multiple versions of a form?
Yeah, Depending on the type of form, it's mainly for applications. I know forms like the Form H or the N260, where you may need to create multiples of those for a case, do have the feature to add an instance. So you can actually add multiple copies of that. To do that, you would select Add Instance. You can give it a title so that you can differentiate between them. I'll just put today's date and click OK. And then once that's saved, you'll see that form down the left-hand side ready for me to work on. Any subsequent forms that you add, again, will appear to the left-hand side just underneath that first one that I've created. But if you do need to create a new version of a form that doesn't have the ability for multiple instances, the copy case is always really useful there. You can copy the case and then get another version of that form in the new case.
Great, thank you. We've got about 5 minutes left, so I think we'll only do one more question. So one of the questions is, can we have a further look into Quantum Collaborate?
We don't really have enough time for that today, but our previous webinar that we hosted this year, we did do a really good run through of Quantum Collaborate in full. There is a recording available actually on quantumfamilyforms.com. We've got a blog post there that with all of the webinars and the recordings. It's a really, really useful resource. So I'd recommend that you take a look. I'll state the URL again. It's quantumfamilyforms.com. But yeah, so that's all the time I think we've got for questions. But thank you so much for joining, and I'll pass back to Pippa.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. We'd always rather finish a bit sooner than keep you for too long. So thank you very much for joining. This webinar has been recorded and will be sent to everyone that registered by tomorrow. So thank you very much again, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.